I'm pressing record. Record.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are talking about on Monday, the 5th of December. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Friedman.
And I'm Emma Gillespie, filling in for Jessie Stevens.
Jessie is poorly today,
She's
like many
poorly.
people in our world seem to be a bit poorly at the minute. So big love and hot drinks if that's you.
Tea, lots of tea.
And shout out to everyone with the 100-day cough.
On the show today, are you Team Sussex or Team Wales? Apparently, we have to pick a side, and where you land will tell us exactly how old you are.
Oh, I love this.
This is a broad theory, but one that's been playing out over the past week, and seeing this spelled out, and I'll read it for you in a moment. The writer who has coined this theory made me go, I really see that all around me. For a bit of context, over the past few days, the battle lines have been well and truly drawn between Princes Harry and William and their houses of Sussex and Wales. The Waleses have been touring America, so that's William and Kate, who are now the Prince and Princess of Wales. They have been touring America. It's been a bit patchy, their reception. It's also been a bit awkward because they were on about day 3 of their tour when Harry and Meghan, well, they didn't. Netflix released the trailer for their forthcoming documentary series that we talked about on Friday and that I am beside myself about.
And it was around about the same time that we found out that William's godmother, a little bit racist.
Massive
Big
racist
racist times, yes.
lady in waiting who has been forced to resign after making racist comments to a woman after making racist comments to a charity leader at a Buckingham Palace function. So lots of mixed press for this lot at the moment, but Wills and Kate rocked up to a big environmental ball in Boston at the weekend with the glamour turned up to 11. Tomorrow, Harry and Megs are going to do the same. They're accepting an award for their humanitarian work at one of the fanciest charity galas of the year, the John F. Kennedy Human Rights Foundation Awards in New York City. It's very posh. Many words have been written about these two teams.
What
but
humanitarian work do they do? Sorry, tangent.
This one
Which
says...
ones?
I'm not sure if this is sure. So the Ripple of Hope Award is going to be awarded to them in recognition of their heroic fight against the royal family's structural racism.
I think that's a little bit outrageous, to be honest, because
God.
I don't think we have any proof of structural racism. I mean, if there is, structural racism is very different to a couple of comments that are made. I'm not excusing those comments, and maybe there is structural racism, but so far, to my knowledge, all they've done is give an interview to Oprah where they've made some claims that someone said,
Well,
made
I
allusions.
think the whole...
So I'm
there's the
just
whole
saying, I don't know if they need an
colonialism.
award for saying his family is shitty.
It certainly started a conversation about historic racism at the very least within the British Empire.
I get
like
that,
colonialism,
but I just
imperialism.
don't think when you look at what humanitarians are and people who work tirelessly for charities and the betterment of others, I don't necessarily think that they tick that box. But I'm not on the judging committee for this
We
particular
got to this
award.
part of the conversation way faster than I thought we would.
Luckily for me, the argument you two are having right now perfectly illustrates the point I'm about to make.
She set us up, Mia.
Because these words were written by Amanda Foreman. Now, she's a royal writer. She has a newsletter. She wrote this piece about the Sussex versus the Wales, which is lots of column inches have been written about this over the weekend. But I really like this point she makes about how you feel about them is very generational. And that is backed up by research, right? So when you survey in Britain and in America how people feel about the royal family, there is a generational divide in how people feel about Harry and Megs. And her point in this article is that Harry and Meghan might know that they're very unpopular among slightly older generations, but they don't really care because the younger ones are more lucrative. But anyway, let me just explain these lines to you. The Waleses, Amanda Foreman writes, offer the world a fixed basket of virtues: duty, probity, which is basically duty too, it's like sticking to your moral compass, discipline, decency, discretion, loyalty, and commitment. These are worthy ones, she says, and also totally and fatally in step with the values of the over 40 crowd, baby boomers, Gen X, and some millennials. But the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, are dealers in today's currency. Self-actualization, self-healing, self-identity, self-care, self-expression, self-confidence, and self-love.
Yes, queen.
Is that true?
And selfish.
Mia.
Sorry. Yeah, I do think it's really true. And I should say I'm a Republican through and through. I would never describe myself as a monarchist or a royalist. But I have to say I have a huge amount of sympathy. I have sympathy for everyone, I have to say. I think that I have a lot of sympathy for Harry. I have sympathy for the racism that and the scrutiny that Meghan Markle has endured. I do, since she joined the royal family. Whether it came, from the media and the Piers Morgan of it all. I absolutely have sympathy for her. I also have sympathy for William and Kate, who can't bite back, who can't really do an Oprah interview. I mean, in actual fact, they could, and maybe they should, it could be argued, but they don't have the luxury of being able to burn down the house because they're still inside it and their children are inside it. And, their children's future also depends on the house not being burnt down. So I feel like it's not very equal when two people are on the outside throwing rocks and the two people on the inside kind of can't defend themselves without...
The two people on the inside, to me, can throw some water on the fire. I think they can fill the buckets up and put a little bit of water on the flames.
What would that look like, Em?
I just think what it boils down to for me is that I would rather see, and maybe millennials and Gen Zs would rather see someone be vulnerable and emotional and open and honest. And yes, sometimes that means being really earnest or even being too much or annoying and cringy, which, I do side with Meghan and Harry more often than not, but I do also find them insufferable sometimes. But I'd rather...
Times? But what I have found goes too far for you?
What goes too far for me is the trees in the home in Montecito that were the representation of their love.
Because they grew out of
we grew out of the double cherry stem, whatever, blah, blah. But I would rather see that than this sort of stoic, concrete, dutiful Will and Kate approach, because I don't think they have to be like that. I completely respect that they have to toe a certain line and they have the duty and the job to uphold, but I just don't believe that they couldn't temper a lot of this with a little bit of honesty and vulnerability.
But the thing is to do that, they would have to do, as Mia's suggesting, and it's probably going to be in the works of some kind of truth-telling of their own, right? And anything they do, any bite back they do just stokes this fire. And the thing is I think that traditionally, and we've just seen this play out on The Crown, from 30 years ago, but traditionally the royals do not air dirty laundry in public. They do not do that, right? And so Wills and Kate and Charles and that side of the family are trying to hold on to this as a deep held cultural core value. And the thing is it's a losing battle because the world has moved on.
Yeah.
So even though it's funny because I very much agree with this generational divide in terms of when I look around me and I talk to people my age, so many of them are so frustrated with Meghan and Harry. And the frustration is about the talking. They're just like, stop it. Stop it already. Stop whinging. Stop whining. Just get on with it. Just show us what you're doing, right? Well, it's very true. But the thing is the young people I know feel like you do, Em, where they're like, no, tell us more. Tell us your truth. We've moved on from a world of stoic silence.
Yeah.
And it made me giggle yesterday to see a report that came out that said, the royals obviously from inside Buckingham Palace, the royals aren't worried about Harry and Meghan's documentary because there are no revelations, there are no bombs, there are no terrible things that they can say because nothing happened. That's basically their position. And they said, and I love this, that they found the whole idea wearying. As in just like,
oh God, how shady.
God. But I feel the same way, because if they were just talking about their love and giggling and talking, talking about things other than the sort of the self-pity that it seems like they've built their brand on. I mean, Harry, I understand. We've all seen what he's been through, some of what he's been through in terms of losing his mother, being the spare to the throne. That's got to be weird. But
Meghan's lost her father, essentially.
But at what point do you have to say, is it also whole brand resilience versus brand snowflake? And that sounds really harsh.
No, I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean? Like, stop crying. You've got hundreds of millions of dollars from Spotify and Netflix and stuff. We don't need to keep crying you a river.
But I don't understand.
Get on with it.
You're the generation that saw what happened to Diana. So what I can never understand about this generational divide, which I do think the lines have been drawn, and you're absolutely right, Hol, with this theory. But why? You saw what happened to Diana, and then for my generation, we saw what was happening to Meghan and made the association. But that doesn't seem to resonate with you in the way that I thought it would.
It's interesting because we did see that, and our generation, I think, not to speak on behalf of all of us, but we've also come around. I mean, we hated Camilla, we hated Charles, but over the last 25 more years, we've come around to have a respect for the way they have carried on, the way they have conducted themselves, and that sounds so old-fashioned, but Camilla, for their relationship, for the way she's behaved in public, for their resilience. You've got to admire that. And the same with the Queen.
I think you nailed it, Mia, when you said team resilience versus team snowflake. And I don't say that with judgment going, I'm team resilience. I just think that is accurate for the way that, in the same way that we like to see culture wars in everything now, we want to see a culture war in this rift in the royal family, and it's being handed to us on a platter the way that it's played out, because identity's in there. There's also a lot of actual just juicy gossip in there, which the young people also love, of course, in terms of a love story that tore two brothers apart. There's all that, I think that without question it's team resilience versus team snowflake, but I think team snowflake's going to win that. So in a way, team resilience needs to figure out how to get a little bit more flaky
I think
themselves.
team resilience needs to figure out how to feel, because for me it's team's feelings. It's team feelings versus team we're afraid to talk about our feelings.
But imagine if William came out and started talking about how he feels about the fact that his little brother is throwing shit at his family.
Oh, I would have so much more time for him if you did that.
But it would just blow things up more and more and more, and somebody has to say, stop.
The current strategy's not working though.
I agree with you. It's not working. I don't know what they're going to do.